Good afternoon. My name is James Kaufman, Mayor for the City of Beech Grove. I'm here today with Deputy Chiefs Tom Hurley, Robert Mercury, and EMS Director Rob Cheshire. I'd like to talk to you today about the events that occurred in the City of Beech Grove starting early this morning. At approximately 7 a.m., shots were fired at Parkview Apartments. 2 adolescents were shot and immediately transported to Raleigh Hospital. These 2 children suffered non-life-threatening injuries and are currently being cared for. Fast forward 5 hours later, I'm proud to say that thanks to the incredible police work by the Beech Grove Police Department, we now have 3 suspects in custody from these events this morning. We have worked closely with our schools and our police department to be where we are today, right now. I would like to defer to Deputy Chief Tom Hurley to answer any questions and provide further details for you today.
Good afternoon, everyone. About 5 hours after the incident occurred, information that was gained by us from witnesses in the apartment complex led us to a location to further our investigation. In the furtherance of that, there was a vehicle pursuit that ensued. The suspect vehicle crashed into a large stone at the intersection of Emerson and Southeastern Avenue. 3 suspects inside of the vehicle fled from it on foot. 2 were apprehended rather immediately. The 3rd was apprehended with the help of IMPD K9 and drone. There were firearms located inside the car. The investigation is still ongoing. Those individuals were brought back to the police headquarters. They were arrested for charges not directly related to the incident this morning, but for resisting law enforcement in a vehicle and for various firearm charges based on what was found in the car. We're on the right track in terms of how this case is trending. Things are very positive. Charges may be amended in the future to include the charges from the incident this morning. I'll take any questions you have.
Could you just go over the details of what happened again this morning? I wasn't able to.
Sure. About 7 a.m., our officers were called to an incident of shots fired in an apartment complex on the east side of Beech Grove. Once they were there, they found 2 juveniles inside of an apartment that were wounded in the lower extremities. They were transported to Raleigh Hospital, and they're in good condition, thank God. The apartment was occupied by other people that were miraculously untouched by any of the bullets. That's where it started.
And then, do you have an estimate on the number of shots that were fired into the apartment?
A few dozen at least. I'm sure you could look at footage from this morning and you'll see the yellow markers, the evidence markers in the yard there. Some of those are spent shell casings, some of them are recovered bullets. So without going through which is which, it's hard to say exactly how many.
With the shooting itself, do you know if any of the occupants in the apartment where the 2 juveniles were hit, were any of them being targeted?
We don't have any evidence of that at this point. It could be that that's the case further along in the investigation. I know everybody wants to, including us, we like to establish a motive. It sure helps the case. But most of the time we're surprised that the motive is so minimal, to be honest with you.
And then the location of the shooting, it was...
I'm sorry?
Could you remind me what the location of the shooting was?
Yep, it was in Parkview Apartments on the east side of Beech Grove.
Okay.
So to be clear, the 3 suspects who are now in custody, are they considered to be directly connected with the shooting? I was a little confused by some of your wording earlier.
Oh, well, our investigation led us to them. And it may, in the future, they may be charged with the crimes that were committed this morning. Right now, they are not in custody for those charges.
Okay, so I want to make sure I word this correctly. Would it be safe for us to say that 3 suspects have been arrested in connection with the shooting, but
not charged with the shooting?
Yeah.
I'd say that'd be fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, do you have the ages of the adolescents that were injured?
I believe the youngest to be 7 and the oldest to be 15 to 16.
Are you able to specify what firearms and how many firearms were recovered from that vehicle?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know our detectives in the crime lab do for sure. I know that there were at least 2 variables in terms of the calibers of rounds. Any more than that, I just don't know.
And then could you just talk about, why it's important to, get firearms and suspects who are involved in this kind of thing, in custody as quickly as possible?
Sure, because if they're inclined to do something as egregious as this to 2 little kids, then I think the sky's the limit, right? And until those people are brought into custody and until justice is served, we're all in danger.
With these 2 kids, right now, does it look like it was most likely they were just caught in a crossfire, or do we even know?
I have to believe that's the case because I can't imagine that the 7-year-old would have done anything to even a teenager to warrant something like that. And the time of day that it occurred, it's still dark outside. You look at the back of the apartment building, it's been sprayed with bullets, and they had no idea who was in there in totality. They might have been there for one specific person, we don't know, but it's clear that they didn't care who got in the way of those rounds.
Talk a little bit more about the risk that a crossfire like that poses, because I was out there. 2 sets of patio doors completely blown out, broken glass everywhere, never mind the bullets which hit those 2 girls.
Yeah, and you could go inside the apartment and see that some of those rounds, they didn't just impact the outer wall, they impacted the inner walls and even went through some of those. So anybody that was in that apartment at that time was definitely in danger.
And then the genders of the adolescents?
I believe female.
Okay.
For the mayor too, Ken, what's your reaction to the senseless shooting, I guess, that we have here? Luckily these girls have survived, but there's close to 50 shots probably that were fired. What's your reaction to what happened?
Well, I try not to get numb to these things. You watch the news, I do, and you see it's a repetitive thing. And I think it's important to realize that these people have families and mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters that love them. And I also have to say that I believe our rank and file officers do an excellent job. However, we're not immune to the epidemic that our nation finds itself in, especially in large cities. Beech Grove is a small city surrounded by a large one. If I had the answer to that, I would think I'd give you half.
How unusual is something like this, just in general, but also specifically for the city of Beech Grove?
Something like this is unusual. We, like all communities, have experienced our fair share of violence in the last few years. This one hits a little different. Thank goodness that no one was killed.
Some of the neighbors in that complex told me that there have been a number of violent incidents over there in recent years. Can you talk to that?
They are correct. In terms of putting that on a scale compared to other communities, I don't know the answer to that. What we've done, we've actually made great strides by meeting with the managers of these apartment complexes. That helps us, that provides them with information that only we can give them. And we can try to move problem people along and displace them from our community before, hopefully, things like this happen. Sometimes there are precursors to violence like this, like multiple domestic disturbance incidents and things like that, just general disturbance of the peace type stuff. And we can partner with them and move that out of the city.
Can you provide any data on number and types of calls you've had at the Parkview Apartments over the past year?
Not without doing some legwork. It's not one, I would say, in terms of size, it's in the top half but it's certainly by no means the largest or the highest occupancy. So you'd almost have to look at that, I guess, on a per capita or per resident type of basis. But our officers are very familiar with the apartment complex, that's for sure.
Would it be fair to characterize that complex as a hot spot or not quite?
For us, we don't experience the crime that, say, the city of Minneapolis does, but in Beech Grove, I would say that that's, if it's not, I'd say it's a hotspot, yeah, to be frank.
Are there tools or changes or anything that could happen, that you wish your officers had that could keep firearms out of the hands of people that intend to act violently ahead of time?
Man, I can't imagine what that would be. I know there are certainly people out there that are, it doesn't matter what you do, they're gonna acquire those things. A lot of it's through thefts from vehicles. People leave their firearms unattended in there. But in terms of tools, we have engaged in a few interesting things here they're not new to us anymore. They were about 4 years ago that really help us in terms of tracking down criminals. But in terms of tools, I can't think of anything.
Real quick, just give us your name and titles.
Sorry, my name is Tom Hurley. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations here.
And that's Hurle, correct?
Yes, sir.
Anybody have more questions?
Mr. Mayor, I kind of have a two-part question to you. The first question just being kind of, as another human being, obviously you're the mayor here, but what is just your initial reaction? How are you feeling with an incident like this happening in your city? The second part of that question being, what message would you have for your residents that may be feeling uneasy about something like this taking place, or even a message to other people who may be willing to perpetrate the same type of crime?
It's a tough day in the city of Beech Grove. 2 children were injured this morning from a senseless act. And that's easy to take. That is not easy for me to take on, not easy for me to accept as mayor for the city of Beech Grove. I have young children myself. I'm a father, and I could not imagine my children being a victim like that. So my sympathy and my prayers are with the family and those children for what they went through this morning. As Deputy Chief Hurley said, the gun violence, it's very common, unfortunately, in today's world. Working with the police department, providing the resources they need each and every day to fight crime and to investigate crime. Today is a wonderful example of exactly what happened today. 5 hours later, I'm proud to say that these men and women captured 3 suspects due to their incredible police work. So continuing to provide those resources so they can continue that police work, I think is a very high concern, and something that we will make sure that we continue to prioritize here in the city of Beech Grove, because they need that to continue to do their job. So,
Do you know if there are any additional suspects at large, or do you think you got everyone?
I think we have everyone. There's no reason to believe that the community is at risk.